So hello all. In the module number 5 we have first one is RS and GAS, the second one is environmental impact assessment or environment impact assessment. So it is EIA, right? So this is one of my favorite topics when I was studying actually. So what is an environmental impact assessment or EIA? It is the assessment of possible positive or negative impact that proposed project may have on environment considering natural, social and economic aspects. So just before any project has been taken up, very big projects as you can see Adani and all, they have to go through something called as EIA because we need to see the positive and negative aspects of a future foreseen projects, right? So that has to be taken up. So in the view of social economy or uh, economic social aspect or economic aspects or natural aspects, whatever is there, we need to see the project has to be done in such a way that it should not harm anything, right? It should be very sustainable. But in the EIA 2020 something else has been happened, so I haven't gone through that actually, so we don't know what is actually going on. Some of the people have also shown their opposition towards that. So always an environmental impact assessment will be there, right, before any starting up of an project. So according to International Association of Impact Assessment, that is IAIA, the process of identifying, predicting, evaluating and mitigating the biophysical, social and other relevant effects of development proposals prior to major decisions being taken and commitments are made. So we need to identify what has been done, what could be the impacts, positive or negative both, right? We need to predict what could be done, we need to evaluate the impact, and also we need to see that whether it could be mitigated, whether it could be minimized. So EIA began to use in the 1960s as a part of rational decision making process. It involved technical evaluation that would lead to objective decision making. So before any project is done, after the EIA itself, the permission is usually given whether the project can be done or not. EIA was made legislation in the US in the National Environmental Policy Act, that is NEPA. So NEPA, I hope everyone has listened that, right? It is a very famous act. So even that has been included over there in the NEPA also. So it is a very big deal that EIA is there. So what are the main steps of EIA? First one is screening, second is scoping, third is prediction and mitigation, next is management and monitoring, and the final one is the audit. I hope what do you mean by audit. So screening is often results in categorization of the project, and from this decision is made on whether or not a full EIA is to be carried out. So we need to screen whatever the project is coming in, and we need to see that a full EIA has to be done or not. So that decision will be taken by categorizing with the size of the project. Next is the scoping. It is the process of determining which are the most critical issues to study and will involve community participation to some degree. So the public participation will also be done. So after determining or after screening, we need to see the critical issues, what are the main things that will affect the environment. So this is an early stage that EIA can most strongly influence the outline proposal. So with scoping itself, we can predict what are the impacts that has to be that could be done with the project. Next is the detailed prediction and mitigation. So after scoping, after the outline of the prediction and mitigation, we have prediction and mitigation studies after scoping, right, with the parallel with feasibility studies. The main objective report is called environmental impact statement, right after prediction and mitigation, and contains a detailed plan of managing and monitoring environmental impacts during both that is during both that is at the time of implementing and after the implementation. Finally, after all these things are done, an audit of EIA process is carried out to some time after implementation. The audit serves useful feedback and learning functions. So all the things are cleared out. So it is fine to go on. So what to do next, right? So what to do next is doing the auditing. So once it has come into picture, the project is finished. So after that, working of that project, we need to see whether it is harming anything. So that audit has to be done. So if it is not working properly, if there are impacts, then we need to do an extra, or we need to start the EIA from the beginning. So we might have to demolish the building also. So flow diagram of EIA process and parallel studies, right? As you can see over here, first one is project screening. So we need to see that is EIA needed, right? Is it having any adverse impact? Next it is the scoping. So okay, fine, so impacts are there, so which can we consider? Next it is the description of project development or action. So how do they develop a project and act upon it? Description of environmental baseline, right? So what is the baseline study with which, or what is the basis with which we can say that it is an impact? Finally, we could have identification of the key impacts. After all these things are done, we need to predict the impacts, evaluate and assess the impact, right? The significant impact, that's it, maybe negative or positive as I told you, and presentation. And after that we need to do something called as EIS, right? Environmental impact statement, that has to be written out, including a non-technical summary so that everyone can understand. After that, we are doing an EIS, that is environmental impact statements review has to be done. After that review, there is a decision making whether that project can be done or not, whether the findings are proper or not. After that, we have our post decision monitoring, right, and auditing and prediction and mitigation measures. So if there is an impact, what can be done to decrease that? What are the alternative ways with which we can decrease the impact? So in the all first three stages, we have public consultation. If the public hearing has gone well, and if they are not agreeing to do so, that time we can't go beyond public, and we can't set up a project. So data requirements for EIA are project, what is the type of the project, what is the size of the project, what is the location of the project, and also what is the area of potential impact. Is it a physical resource, is it a biological resource, that is flora and fauna, economic development resource, what is the money involved, quality of life, because sometimes if it is an industry there will be pollution, so quality of life has to be taken care of, other existing and planned projects. So it actually helps with the mitigation part. Externalities of EIA, that is positive things about EIA, is that new jobs can be generated, right? People with auditing, people who review, new jobs could be generated. Economic growth can be stimulated, growth of local business and enterprises could be supported, right? Development and supporting complementary industries. So one byproduct of something could be a major product or the raw product of something else, right? For example, the byproducts which is coming from sugarcane, it is used again with the other industries, so it has zero wastage. Basically sugarcane has a zero wastage, effectively a zero wastage, we can talk about it. So in that same way, influx of capital and disposal income can also be taken care of. So what are the negative impacts? We basically have social impacts, that is impact on health and local population, that is if a project comes into picture. Next is the increase in crime and deviant behavior, that is you will have corruption, right? Next it is the additional pressure on existing and physical infrastructure, and one more is decline in community cohesion and changed cultural values could be there because of the social impacts. That is, if anyone is having any cultural connection with the land, and if it is the ancient heritage for some community, and if there is a construction which is done above that, it could change the cultural values. Next, it is the environmental impacts if a project will come, that is you will have depletion of natural resources, destruction of habitats, right? Change in pH, oxygen level, toxicity of water, increase in toxicity of air, right? Because of all the pollution, global warming, and ozone depletion. So what is the EIA? What is the story of EIA in India? Mainly it is taken care by MOEF. I hope you know what you mean by MOEF. Ministry of Environment and Forests is the agency of environmental clearance. If necessary, it may consult the committee of experts with the composition specified in Schedule 3 of notification. So the main laws which include in MOEF are Water Act, which was done in 1972. Next is Indian Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Water Act in 1974, Air Prevention and Pollution Control of Act, or it can be shortly called as Air Act 1981, Environmental Act, or it is also called as Environmental Protection Act again in 1981. So the responsible body of the Central Pollution Control Board of MOEF is mainly responsible, and Central Pollution Control Board comes into picture. The project proponent of the responsible for preparation of EIA statement with the help of external consultant or institution. The amount of allocated and spent for preparation of EIA by the project is usually obscenely low compared to the overall project. So whatever the what you can say, whatever the cost that is held for EIA, it is very low when you consider for the project. So basically we have many drawbacks in the Indian system, right? That is because the lack of timely availability of reliable and authentic environmental data that has been major bottleneck. That is, the company can provide any fake reports, right, by corrupting or by bribing. Environment being the multidisciplinary subject, a multitude of agencies is involved and collection of environmental data. So EIA, it takes a long time, right? Removing that, collection of that, it will take a very big, and it will become a very hectic process. So now, to provide reliable data, Environmental Information Center, that is EIC, has been set up to serve as professionally managed clearance house, right? They will take up the statement, right, and the stakeholders of EIA are involved in this. So Environmental Information Center, that is it is the what you can say as, it is the checkpoint of the data which is collected. So EIC stores data in GIS format and makes it available to all environmental impact assessment studies to EIA stakeholders in a cost effective and timely manner. So these are all stored and we can cross check the data. So what is the benefit of conducting an EIA? So it facilitates informed decision by providing clear, well structured, dispassionate analysis of effect and consequences of proposed projects, right? So preemption of early withdrawal of unsound proposals could be done, assists in selection of alternative, that is, this mainly comes under mitigation, including the selection of best practicable and most economically friendly option. Also, it results in best practice prediction and mitigation of adverse effects of the projects. It also influences in both project selection and design by screening out environmentally unsound project as well as modifying feasible projects, mitigation of negative environmental and social impacts. Also, it guides formal approval, including the establishment of terms and condition project and follow-ups. So mitigation can also be done. So negative environmental and social impacts could be mitigated so that less harm is done. Serves as an adaptive organizational learning process in which lessons of experience are fed back into policies. So EIA has been changing itself with the feedbacks. So time to time it could be changed. So in the end, what we could say is environmental impact assessment is very beneficial step to check whether the project is environmental friendly or not, right? So since economic development is a result of interaction between natural resources and technology supported by design uh, that is for people, so all human activities should be economic and social and economic environmental friendly. So whatever the projects we do, mainly it comes under civil itself, right? So it should be environmental friendly, it should not harm anyone, right? So that is the main thing. So EIA is one of the steps that could decrease the pollution which is happening in the environment. So that's all about EIA, and the next topic will be EMS, that is environmental management system.